You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to this special edition of Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and we are in plague time. Now that we're in lockdown at home, and once again, despite what Trump wants, thinks, or says, we're likely to remain so throughout April, if not longer, this program is going to adapt, shifting focus to address the situation with facts that you may not have heard or read, and if by chance you have, these are facts that still bear repeating. And also we'll offer suggestions for physical and psychological, emotional comfort. Like everybody else, we're going to take this one day at a time, trying to be proactive, responsive, responsible, and adaptive as much as we can. I hope it helps. So today, our first section, usually inside the headlines, will consist of virus-related news you may have missed. Then, since the world's human population is now mostly quarantined in the surrealism corner, it would seem too crowded for anything else, including humor, except that there's always some space for humor, even if it's the wry, dark type. Today, instead of the usual conversation with a guest, we have a section called Comfort Zone, with creative things to do that will help you yourself and help you help other people, which makes you feel less literally helpless, and also will keep you from bouncing off the walls of wherever you find yourself cloistered. And in Fighting Words, I'm going to introduce you to lists of and links to reliable resources for trustable facts, and to warn you against those that aren't. For the rest, we're going to take it show by show, a little rough-hewn about the edges. Who knows, I might be reduced to sharing recipes, but let's get going, because one of the things this pandemic has made us all the more conscious of is time. We'll start with a bit of women-specific news. Although, as I've mentioned in previous programs, women die less once contracting the virus than men do, there's now also emerging evidence, not surprising, that women contract it more. I say not surprising because women tend to live longer than men in most cultures, and also because women are the primary caretakers of the world. So therefore, as with the Ebola crisis in Africa, women are taking care of the sick and the dying and are more vulnerable to contracting the disease. There is some good news in that the virus is not mutating significantly as it circulates throughout the human population. That's according to scientists who are closely studying the pathogen's genetic code. That relative stability is encouraging news for researchers hoping to create a long-lasting vaccine. Not good news, there's an uptick in gun sales and an upsurge in domestic violence, as more men stay home from their jobs and stress mounts as families are crammed together hour after day after week. Women are trying to hold things together. The homeless folks have a horrible double vulnerability. There's a study out of Washington State that found that 30% of homeless people have lung disease already before any discussion of coronavirus, so that they're very vulnerable. Second, we've reported that at some shelters, which the homeless hate to go to anyway, but at some shelters on the West Coast, beds are less than 2 feet apart, and experts, of course, have recommended being 6 feet away from each other. So if you're out at all going to and from a drugstore or food shopping, those should be the only two urgent reasons. And if you pass a homeless person, throw some cash, for God's sake, in her or his direction, even if you never made a practice of doing that before. Local newspapers are among those hardest hit by COVID-19, and they were in bad shape to begin with. As we've reported, the right wing has been buying up local media at a frightening pace. For alternative weeklies, so writes one St. Louis editor, the virus has been a nearly perfect weapon against them. PEN America has given a report on the importance of local news. You can find that online. And if you can possibly support your local media, whether you've done so before or not, do so now. The internet is rife with fake reports, at times aspirational merely, and at times lethal. We'll address some of them in Surrealism Corner, especially those Trump lies about and sends out like drones into the world. The less murderous ones seem almost sweet in that they are aspirational, but they're not true, like the ones about deer wandering through abandoned streets in Europe or the United States, and dolphins being spotted swimming in Venice's newly clean, because of no traffic, canals. Those are not true, and The Guardian was the one that blew the whistle on such false news, as did National Geographic. But it is true that NASA and the European Space Agency, ESA, pollution monitoring satellites have detected significant decreases in nitrogen dioxide, NO2, over China. There is growing evidence that the change is related to the economic slowdown following the outbreak of the virus. At the end of 2019, medical professionals in Wuhan, China, were treating dozens of pneumonia cases that had nitrogen dioxide, and this is currently greatly reduced in these treatments at present. And one entire continent is COVID-19 free: Antarctica. 28 countries have research stations on Antarctica. The population of the continent is highest during the Antarctic summer, from October to February. In winter, now, during which the continent falls under darkness and temperatures plummet, many stations close and others remain open with skeleton staffs. In these winter months, the isolation could be a blessing. The harsh conditions make travel in and out extremely difficult, reducing the risk that someone could introduce the virus. One friend said, "Surely this is the planet itself saying, 'Time out, humans. Everybody go to their room and listen to what you've been doing.'" We have to take a short break, but we'll be back in just a moment with the Surrealism Corner inside the Planetary Surrealism Corner, coming right up. Subscribe to this program on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Follow us on Twitter at WMC Live, like our Facebook page at facebook.com/WMC Live, and visit us at WMCLive.com for more information about our show and our guests.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
It is rush hour in the Surrealism Corner. Hospitals are turning to crowdsourcing for funds, staff, and material. People are 3D printing medical equipment. Medical students and retired medical personnel are stepping up. Medical students, still undergrads way down in the food chain, are all over this country creating and staffing child care centers for medical personnel who have to step up. And so it goes. Democracy at work and in action when it should not have to be, because this is the job of the federal government. But we're in the Surrealism Corner, aren't we? But these brave and beautiful people all over are creatively trying to help one another get through this. You just know I cannot leave out this following item, a tragic comic one, if ever there was one. It's from CNN, but I'm sure you've heard it. Still, oh my God, A Phoenix area man in Arizona is dead, and his wife is under critical care after the two of them took chloroquine phosphate in an apparent attempt to self-medicate for the novel coronavirus, according to hospital system Banner Health. It does not appear they took the pharmaceutical version of the drug, but rather, quote, an additive commonly used at aquariums to clean fish tanks. That's according to Banner Health in their statement. Although Banner did not provide additional details, NBC News spoke with the wife, who said they learned of chloroquine's connection to the virus during President Donald Trump's news conference, which was, quote, on a lot, actually, close quote. They took it because, quote, we were afraid of getting sick, she said. I had it in the house, she went on, because I used to have koi fish, she told the network. I saw it sitting on a back shelf and thought, hey, isn't that the stuff the president's talking about on TV? Question mark, close quote. Now, I have to tell you that my lower self had this thought, I confess it, shamefacedly, that if people so dense as to believe what Trump says about anything, and so dense as to think what they had on the back shelf to clean their fish tank would be a good thing to swallow, I have to confess that the thought did occur to me that the planet was better off without them. That's a cruel and I'm shamefacedly admitting its statement, but since it's occurred possibly to some of you, I thought I'd let you know you were not alone in this. I take it back. I wish this on absolutely no one. But I do hope there's some learning process that's to be picked up in this, that when you listen to Trump's press conferences, you're probably safer doing the exact opposite of whatever he recommends. Now, we do have a wordplay edition this week in Surrealism Corner, the human drive to tamp down uncertainty by buying and buying and buying and storing and hoarding. Of course, there's a German word for it. Hamsterkäufe. Hamsterkäufe. Hamsterkäufe means to shop like a nervous, bulging-cheeked hamster. So we don't want to be that, and let's not do that, and let's share whatever we have. I have a personal admission of a surreal reaction in myself that I'm noticing, which is that a few months ago, having been grateful for the existence of John Bolton since he was challenging Trump, and finding myself, to my horror, being glad John Bolton existed, now I am finding myself, to my amazement, being in great gratitude for the magnificence of Andrew Cuomo, with whom I have differed quite considerably in the past. But the way that he has stepped up as a leader, not only in terms of factual reporting and action, and concern for the citizens of this state, New York State, as has Gavin Newsom in California, has been enormously gratifying. And also the personal vein he's not afraid of showing. What's happened with his daughter, what's happening with his mother, what his own concerns and fears are, and forging ahead nonetheless. That's real leadership, which we do not have on a federal level. And speaking of a federal level and a lack of leadership, wouldn't it be interesting if Trump, well, he won't, but wouldn't it be interesting if all the Trump hotels, golf resorts, and all his other properties were suddenly turned over for hospital space? There are many of them in New York State alone, but they are, as Trump often proudly boasts, all over the country and all over the world. There is need for hospital space all over the world. Wouldn't it be fascinating if the people could rise up and just requisition those spaces? Because we need those beds, we need that space. Of course, in a real leader, he would have volunteered this as a precedent-setting example a while ago. But to even think such thoughts about Donald Trump itself is surreal. Time for another quick pause, but coming up in just a moment, Comfort Zone. Sounds good, doesn't it? I hope it will be. Comfort, help on the way. The Women's Media Center, founded in 2005 by Jane Fonda, Gloria Steinem, and myself, is a progressive, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization working to make women visible and powerful in media. You can learn more about the WMC at womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to the Comfort Zone. A note before beginning. If you cannot jot down the following suggestions, they will be relisted in my blog, which will post Monday morning. Just go to www.robinmorgan.net and click on blog, and you can there read, download, or subscribe all for free. The following is not as perfectly organized as I would have wished, but in such a situation my normally obsessive-compulsive anal-retentive organizer's syndrome has gone fishing. So I trust you to forgive the imperfection of categories. The information is the main thing. Things you can do, things you can enjoy while sequestered, ways to help, and we'll keep adding to this list as time goes on. Let's start with something crucial you can do and now have the time to do, not that it takes more than a few minutes, and is really, really important. And doing something important is agency, and agency always feels good. Fill out your census form. Go to www.my2020census.gov, www.my2020census.gov. Remember that money needed by your neighborhood, your area, for schools, for infrastructure, for anything, as well as combating the right wing's gerrymandering for the vote, all of this and more depends on data garnered by the census. It's not a small thing. The right wing has been trying to eat away at the census for years, and this is a particularly vulnerable time, since those who are most affected by a skewered census batch of data are also those least likely to fill it out. So please go to www.my2020census.gov and fill it out. It's easy and it takes only a minute or two. Now for fun, relief, entertainment, comfort. Theater. The streaming platform Broadway HD offers a 7-day free trial so theater fans can watch musicals and plays including King Lear and A Doll's House from your own couches. Performances range from Broadway productions to shows from London's West End to regional offerings from American Conservatory Theatre in San Francisco. Other theater streaming services include the Seattle-based On the Boards, that's what you look up online, On the Boards, which focuses on more experimental productions and currently has a code for free viewing through the end of April. The 24-Hour Play Festival Company, that's the 24-Hour Play Festival Company, you can find that online, has a series of monologues performed by famous actors and other entertaining content on its Instagram account. Then there is Patrick Stewart. For Star Trek fans and Shakespeare fans alike, he has had the wonderful idea of streaming daily each of Shakespeare's sonnets. Go to your search engine and look up Patrick Stewart and Shakespeare sonnets and it will pop right up. It's a lovely thing. Zoos. Yes, zoos. You don't have to settle for old cat videos. The San Diego Zoo has live cameras as well as archived footage that allow virtual visitors to see what the penguins, tigers, koalas, and other animals are up to. Other popular zoos with streams and other digital entertainment include the Cincinnati Zoo, Zoo Atlanta, Houston Zoo, and Oregon Zoo. For that matter, Animal Care Centers of New York City, if you want to zoo it yourself, that's an open intake center, a shelter that received about 21,000 animals last year. Well, Animal Care Centers of New York City put out a call for additional foster homes on March 13, and animal care centers across the country have been doing the same thing. So if you'd always wanted to get a pet and are feeling lonely in your sequestration, that's a possibility as well. Aquariums. Like zoos, many aquaria have live streams to show off what their residents are up to. Monterey Bay Aquarium has cameras for sea otters, jellyfish, sharks, penguins, and more. Chicago's Shed Aquarium, the National Aquarium in Baltimore, the Georgia Aquarium in Atlanta, and Boston's New England Aquarium also provide remote entertainment, live feeds, and virtual tours. The Twitter feed from the Shed, that's spelled S-H-E-D-D, Aquarium in Chicago, is special because it follows the adventures of Edward and Annie, who are rockhopper penguins who have been allowed to explore the empty aquarium. And the briefings team says that the pitter-patter of their feet wandering around the exhibits and visiting the other exhibits is just the break from the news that they need. The humans, that is. Exercise. Workout apps, Obey Fitness, Peloton, and P.Volve, among others, have free trials that let you stream live and archived workouts from home. There's lots of other apps, instructors, and studios offering fully free workouts online, some even using Zoom for live interactive connections. Music. Music lovers can enjoy a variety of free live and taped concerts online. NPR, that's National Public Radio's Tiny Desk series, for example, has hundreds of archived performances. Quite a few well-known pop and rock stars are streaming free concerts every day or every week. You can find that online by looking up their own websites. I worry instead about the working musicians who are not as well known, who count on waiting tables and doing any work they can, and who have been laid off. Worry about them if you can. Classical music fans can also tune into performances from professionals such as the Berlin Philharmonic, the Scottish Symphony Orchestra, the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center, and the Philadelphia Orchestra. Go to any of those websites and you'll find that information. The Metropolitan Opera is streaming live operas from 7:30 p.m. till 4 p.m. the next day. If you log on at 7:30, you can watch at any point between that time and 4 p.m. the following day at Metopera, M-E-T-O-P-E-R-A, metopera.org. Opera fans can also watch free recorded performances from famous venues on OperaVision, and individual companies, including the Teatro Regio in Turin and the Vienna State Opera, have their own free streams. The Rossini Opera Festival is streaming previous productions free as well. Visual arts. Time to visit a museum. A rare good thing you will ever hear me say these days about Google. Google Arts and Culture has teamed up with over 2,500 museums and galleries around the globe to create virtual tours and extraordinary content. The Metropolitan Museum, the Louvre, Bauhaus Foundation in Dessau, Germany, the Musée d'Orsay, which is famed for its vast collection of Impressionist and Post-Impressionist works, the Guggenheim, the Palace at Versailles, the Uffizi in Florence, the National Gallery in Rome, the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, the Getty in Los Angeles, the Victoria and Albert in London. All these are available if you check in with Google Arts and Culture or with the museums themselves individually. The National Museum for Women in the Arts has gathered digital resources at a new webpage, NMWA at HOME, MNWA at home. So they are asking that you visit them. They're open 24/7 with rich content by women artists that shares their collection and with programming for audiences whenever and wherever you're ready to engage with them. If you have kids, there are many unofficial YouTube videos that give viewers virtual experience of Walt Disney World rides, such as Frozen Ever After and Pirates of the Caribbean and It's a Small World, if they're into that. Google Street View has virtual tours of the parks, including Magic Kingdom and Epcot. Legoland theme parks have official virtual tours of the spaces and attractions they offer as well. And there are, of course, also wonderful children's books to read and be read too. Planting. If you have land, however small, a garden, pots on a patio or terrace, whatever, plant some seeds. You can send away for them and they will come in the mail. Bless those postal workers still making that possible. Plant food, because fresh vegetables or fruits may become harder to get as weeks go on, and some fresh lettuce leaves or zucchini or two might become a real treat. So if you're privileged enough to have even a spot of land, use it. And I don't need to tell those of you who are already gardeners that few things on earth are as healing as tending the earth, so get out there and garden, and make it useful to yourself and others by sharing. Leave outside the doors of neighbors as they come up a flower, a veggie, a token of concern. And I would add that seeing those seeds come up, for those of us who have been spoiled by buying seedlings for our annuals, is an absolute joy in itself. Now, we're going to add to this list as time goes on, as I've said, and we'll add to the blog as well. But if you missed any of these, remember that you can go to www.robinmorgan.net and click on blog and find them in print as of this coming Monday. Last few things. I find that having some regimen during a day helps. This is old news to me because those of us who work freelance have to develop self-discipline or we'll become couch potatoes and do nothing but eat cookies. So set up tea dates with friends or a date for cocktails, each of you on your own FaceTime or Skype or whatever platform you use, with a drink in hand or a cup of tea and a visit, or lunch or dinner or a nightcap. And knowing that you have that to look forward to and get ready for, wash your face, maybe comb your hair, maybe not if the friend is a good enough friend, helps. You have something to look forward to, you have something to show up for, and if you don't need it, the friend might. So keep tea with friends, cocktails, lunch or dinner or a nightcap, and Skyping or FaceTiming. Front and center. It's good for you, and it's good for those you love. And last but never least, there's reading. People have asked what I read during times like this. Well, there are no times like this, but right now I'm reading a new book by Frank Snowden, Snowden, a professor emeritus of history and the history of medicine at Yale. It's called Epidemics and Society, From the Black Death to the Present. And he, as an epidemician, is quite an expert. He notes that epidemics are a category of disease that seem to hold up the mirror to human beings as to who we really are. That is to say, they have everything, obviously, to do with our relationship to our mortality, to death, to our lives, but they also reflect our relationships with the environment, the built environment that we create and the natural environment that responds. They show the moral relationships that we have toward each other as people, and we're seeing that today. We're seeing that globalization was about togetherness and the speed at which togetherness lets the virus sweep the globe. They're seeing what we're learning about apartness and how much that hurts and how much we need each other. They're seeing the environmental connection, the invasion of humans into wetlands and wilderness, flushing such animals that carry viri, not dangerous to them, but when it transformed to humans, lethal, flushing those creatures out of their natural habitat. We see the growth of so-called wet shops that sell exotic pets and weird foods that superstition tells people if they ingest, they will become more sexually potent or powerful or smarter or some other such nonsense. We're seeing nature, or Gaia, as you like it, fighting back, trying to correct the balance of things. It's a remarkable book, Epidemics and Society from the Black Death to the Present by Frank Snowden. But if you want to get away from data on COVID-19 directly and read something else, since we're coming up on Poetry Month, and in the hope that this little offering is worthy of being included in the comfort zone, here's a poem of mine from my recent book of poems, Dark Matter. It's called Transmitting Gravity. Pressure. Pressure wants. The boiling metal core of this planet wants, while gravity balances its orbit and we swarm its surface, running out of time, out of mind. Already palm trees bask where pines once sighed. Weak force, strong force, one force only able to recollect everything still being one thing, afloat in its own interior sea, before most of us came to cling, broken, to the sands of bleak atolls, floating swift currents of despair. Pressure. We are drawing together while rushing apart. Why do individuals imitate each other? Not only humans. Something deeper. All the wildebeest in the Serengeti ovulate the same week. Something that cries into airless space, "Am I alone? Is anything there?" Why do species imitate each other? The hummingbird moth, the stone-shaped cactus, mint plants that taste of chocolate, geraniums that smell like oranges. A limited palate, or the inability to use limitlessness, or the pressure to repeat different from the same? Mind out of time. What if gravity is defined by longing? Insufficient eternity to make enough poems, enough particles of light to live along the dark ribbons of matter. Scientists in Darmstadt have stopped the fastest thing in the universe, light, dead still, for 1 minute inside a crystal. Why would they want to do that? Stop light? Pressure. Time out of mind. What if gravity is defined by patience? Hang in there with us through one more quick break, and then we'll have some fighting words.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, it's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Talk radio with a brain.
Fighting words need to be factual. Fighting words need to tell the truth. Today, this section will share sources that I consult daily and on which I base my news reports and any other data I cite on this program. This program double and triple checks news items, statistics, and other data referred to here normally, obsessively, except that I don't think one can be too obsessive about not misleading listeners and readers. I wish others agreed. Some do. Not those in the White House. Recently, one of you wrote and asked me where I got my facts and what I was reading, so others could do the same. A sensible suggestion, so here we go, with sources and resources. A note: if you miss writing anything down as you listen, I will include these citations in the Robin Morgan blog, which you can access or subscribe to for free at www.robinmorgan.net. World Health Organization. WHO is continuously monitoring and responding to this outbreak, and their Q&A will be updated as more and more is known about COVID-19. For more information, check back regularly on WHO's coronavirus pages. You can just go to www.who.international and it will take you there. The New York State Department of Health coronavirus hotline is 1-888-364-3065. That and the New York State Department of Health website are excellent sources for local information. Each state has its own version of this hotline and website. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The CDC's normally, in normal times, that means including times that do not have the virus in the White House and the virus in our health, the CDC is normally a reliable source of information. But remember that the CDC is vaguely under the aegis of the administration. So it has been muzzled on some things, made late on others, and is less trustable for information, hard information, than I would wish, than it usually is, and than WHO is. It is, and I've double-checked this, reliable on CDC pregnancy frequently asked questions and CDC travel updates, which at this point mostly resolve down to don't travel if you can avoid it. So otherwise, if you go to the CDC, double-check or triple-check that information with other sources. Wikipedia's reputation is generally on the ascent, because what was once considered the site's greatest vulnerability, that anyone can edit it, is being revealed to be its greatest strength. This is because serious people with expertise in their fields, worried about false stories proliferating online, have been logging onto Wikipedia and have been sought after and welcomed by Wiki staff to edit articles, particularly those scientific and medical, on Wikipedia. So check them out, but always double and triple check them against other sources. This next is an extremely good and reliable, solid source, and I'm going to say a lot about it. It's COVID-19. COVID-19. It's a weekly digest that will connect you with quality resources and fact-checked information designed to combat misinformation in the crisis. The bulletin is designed to support busy newsrooms, fact-checking organizations, and nonprofits across Southeast Asia and beyond. They link you with the tools you need to provide your own self and communities with accurate, timely, and actionable information. Who are they? They're a group of 4 organizations who work to improve access to quality information in a crisis. The organizations are Internews, Translators Without Borders, BBC Media Action, and Evidence Aid. You can look up each of those separately and find out more about them. They are funded by the H2H network, a group of approximately 50 organizations worldwide, Its members provide specialist services to ensure crisis response is more efficient, effective, and accountable. The H2H network is supported by aid from the UK government and hosted by the Danish Refugee Council. They make two promises at Connect COVID-19: to be brief, because they know many people are facing an information overload, and to be practical. They dedicate themselves to helping you respond to misinformation with verified information from sources you can trust, translating quality COVID-19 resources into local languages so you can send this information on to people who speak other languages of your acquaintance, creating engaging content to respond to community information gaps. They also present people's perspectives. WHO has responded, for example, to rumors that the virus cannot survive in hot and humid environments. This handy infographic that COVID Connect supplies explains why weather does not prevent the spread of the virus. Also, have you heard of the breath test? This is another misnomer that's out there. Thousands of social media users have been sharing a rumor that holding your breath for 10 seconds is an at-home alternative to lab testing for the virus. The fact-checking network AFP explains that that is completely false. If you need this information in infographics and PowerPoint in languages other than the 12 languages they offer, if you need another language, you email them and they will try to get that up and going. Evidence Aid has compiled a growing list of resources, and Department of Health guidelines and journal articles on COVID-19 include WHO guidelines in Arabic, Chinese, French, Russian, and Spanish. And of course, WHO is mapping the outbreak of the virus online. COVID-19 Connect supports the Risk Communication and Community Engagement Working Group, that's RCCE Working Group, in the development of a guide that you can get online as to how to include vulnerable and marginalized groups in your activities. And content. For example, a handshake video uses comedy to show the different ways people can greet each other without shaking hands. The content is always free and available for others to use. There's specific country content as well. BBC Media Action, one of the 4 groups that comprise Connect, has produced 6 videos to ensure people in Indonesia have the right information to know what to do to avoid COVID-19. In Bangladesh, a range of public service announcements, short videos, and longer audio materials designed for listening groups has been produced, again by BBC Media Action and Connect, in the languages and dialects of Bangla, Chittagonian, and Rohingya, and it includes key hygiene information. You can email them at covid-19@internews.org, COVID, COVID, -19 at internews, internews.org to receive their once-a-week bulletin. You can opt out at any time. It's a really valuable, honest, reliable, hard news, hard facts resource, and it leads you to yet others that are trustable. That's it for Fighting Words for now. Take care. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care. Those are my fighting words. Add yours on Twitter, and remember to tag us at WMC Live and use the hashtag Fighting Words. And that's our show for this week. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and now Instagram at The Robin Morgan, and you can check out my blog at robinmorgan.net and find my latest book of poems, Dark Matter, and my brand new novel, Parallax, wherever books are sold. Opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the Women's Media Center. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. Executive producer as well as founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. WMC president and co-executive producer of this program, Julie Burton. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Join us again next time on Women's Media Center Live.